The WNBA just got heated. Sophie Cunningham, Deja Carrington, and Caitlin Clark drama explained. One of the wildest moments of the WNBA season happened in Chicago, and it wasn't just about basketball. During a fast break, Sophie Cunningham got knocked to the floor after Deja Carrington delivered a hard hit across her face and neck. Cunningham still managed to finish the layup, but she came away bleeding, and the officials immediately reviewed the play. The result? A flagrant 2 and an ejection for Carrington. But that was only the beginning. What happened afterward on social media turned one controversial foul into a much bigger story involving Sophie Cunningham, Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever, and the WNBA itself. So today, we're breaking down exactly what happened, why fans are demanding discipline, how Cunningham responded, and how Indiana somehow turned all the chaos into one of its biggest wins of the season. The play happened in the first quarter. Cunningham broke away on a fast break with open space in front of her. It looked like a routine 2 points. Carrington chased her down from behind, but instead of making a clean attempt at the ball, her arm came across Cunningham's face and neck. Cunningham hit the floor hard, but somehow still completed the layup and then made the free throw. The replay immediately became the center of attention because the contact was forceful. Cunningham was in the air, and Carrington's arm had a noticeable wind-up and follow-through. The officials ultimately determined that the contact was unnecessary and excessive, which meant a flagrant 2 and an automatic ejection. And the reaction inside Chicago's United Center was surprising. This was a sky-home game, but when Carrington was sent toward the locker room, fans began chanting Sophie Cunningham's name. That moment told you just how much the play had crossed the line in the eyes of the crowd. But then the story became even bigger. Fans immediately started looking at Carrington's previous incidents. During the 2024 playoffs, Carrington was involved in the controversial play where her hand made contact with Caitlin Clark's eye during Indiana's series against Connecticut. Clark was left with a visible black eye, and no foul was called on the play. Carrington later said she didn't know how her hand ended up there. Then came other incidents. The script points to a 2025 ponytail pull involving Sarah Ashley Barker and another flagrant involving Skylar Diggins. There was even an incident involving her own teammate. Whether every one of those plays was intentional is a separate debate, but the collection of incidents created a growing conversation about Carrington's physical style of play. And that's why the Cunningham incident hit differently. But the biggest controversy didn't actually happen on the basketball court. After being ejected, Carrington posted the words "white privilege" on Threads and tagged the Fever's account. She then posted August 23rd, referencing the next matchup between the Sky and Fever. Those posts quickly spread across social media, with many fans interpreting the second post as a warning or threat. That completely changed the conversation. Instead of people only debating whether the foul deserved a flagrant 2, now fans were talking about race, social media, and what could happen when Indiana and Chicago met again. Sophie Cunningham, meanwhile, took a completely different approach. At her post-game press conference, Cunningham remained calm. She described the foul as unnecessary and intentional, but she didn't turn the press conference into a shouting match. When asked about the race-related comments, Cunningham rejected the idea that race had anything to do with what happened, and that response became one of the biggest talking points of the night. Cunningham essentially pointed out that she had previously been ejected herself and accepted the consequences. Her argument was simple. If a player makes a dangerous play, the focus should be on the play itself rather than using race to explain it. That calm response stood in sharp contrast to the chaos happening online. But while everyone was talking about Carrington and Cunningham, Caitlin Clark was dealing with controversy of her own. During the third quarter, Clark drove toward a basket and was bumped off balance by Natasha. Clark stumbled out of bounds and made contact with an official while trying to catch herself. The referee assessed Clark a technical foul, believing the contact with the official was intentional. Clark immediately looked confused. For what? That technical foul became another major talking point because the replay appeared to show Clark simply losing her balance after contact from the defender. Indiana coach Stephanie White was furious and also received a technical after arguing the call. But here's where the story gets interesting. The Fever appealed Clark's technical, and according to the script, the league rescinded it roughly 2 hours and 20 minutes after the game ended. So the technical was reversed. Meanwhile, the social media controversy surrounding Carrington continued spreading. That contrast created another debate among fans about how quickly the league handled one situation compared with another. But while the controversy dominated social media, something important was happening on the court. The Indiana Fever were winning. Indiana started the game with an 8-0 run, with Aaliyah Boston scoring 6 of those early points. Chicago eventually took a 23-22 lead after the first quarter, but the Fever completely changed the game in the second. Indiana outscored Chicago 31-19 in the second quarter and went into halftime leading 53-42. And Caitlin Clark was at the center of it. Clark scored 12 points in that second quarter alone, continuing to attack the defense and knock down big shots. By the end of the night, Clark had 26 points and 11 assists, shooting 7-4-15 from the field, and hitting 5 of her 6 3-point attempts. That performance also put her into rare WNBA territory. According to the source script, Clark had now recorded her 8th career game with at least 25 points and 10 assists. The rest of WNBA history combined had only 4 such games from all other players. Think about that. Caitlin Clark had 8. Everyone else combined had 4. And she wasn't doing it alone. Kelsey Mitchell was incredible as well. Mitchell finished with 27 points, shooting 11-4-22 from the field. Even more impressively, she extended her streak to 16 straight games with at least 20 points, surpassing the previous mark of 15. That meant Indiana had 2 explosive scoring options carrying the offense. Then there was Aaliyah Boston. Boston delivered another double-double with 13 points and 11 rebounds, while also adding 3 assists and 2 blocks. Her presence in the paint helped Indiana control the game even while the emotional temperature kept rising. Mikayla Timson also stepped up, scoring 10 points and providing energy in the starting lineup. So despite everything happening around them, Indiana kept playing basketball. Chicago did make a late push. The Sky cut the lead to 7 points in the third quarter after a 9-0 run. Later, with less than a minute remaining, Chicago got the game down to just 3 points. But Indiana stayed composed. Clark hit key free throws, and the Fever closed the game. Final score: Indiana Fever 90, Chicago Sky 86. Clark, Mitchell, and Boston combined for 66 of Indiana's 90 points. And according to the source, Clark and Mitchell became only the second duo in WNBA history to both score at least 25 points in the same game. That's what makes this story so interesting. The Fever weren't simply involved in the controversy. They won through it. Sophie Cunningham was hit hard. Caitlin Clark received a controversial technical. Stephanie White was also ejected from the argument. Social media exploded, and Indiana still walked out of Chicago with a victory. Then came Cunningham's post-game comments. Instead of attacking Carrington personally, Cunningham stayed composed. She said she had no personal beef with Carrington and suggested that Carrington might have some unresolved frustration. She also rejected the idea that the incident was about race. And perhaps most importantly, Cunningham acknowledged her own history. She had been ejected before. She had made a similar mistake herself. And she accepted the punishment. That made her argument more difficult to dismiss because she wasn't pretending she had never been on the wrong side of Flagrant 2. Her message was basically, if you cross the line, accept the consequences and move on. Meanwhile, Mikayla Timson showed exactly where the Fever stood during the incident. She helped separate Cunningham from Carrington and later explained that she was simply protecting her teammate. That was a mentality Indiana carried throughout the night. Protect each other, stay focused, and finish the game. Now, the big question is what happens next. Carrington was already ejected from the game, but the league can consider additional discipline based on what happened afterward. The foul itself was serious enough for a Flagrant 2, and the social media posts added another layer to the situation. That's why this story is bigger than one hard foul. It's about how players respond after the whistle. It's about accountability. It's about whether social media comments should influence league discipline. And it's about the growing intensity surrounding Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. Every time Indiana plays, the attention is enormous. Every controversial play becomes a national conversation. And now, with another matchup between these teams coming up, fans are already wondering what happens when Carrington and the Fever meet again. Will the league suspend Carrington? Will there be additional punishment? Will the next Fever Sky game become even more heated? Those questions are still hanging over the story. But one thing is already clear. On this night, Indiana didn't allow the chaos to control them. Caitlin Clark scored 26 and delivered 11 assists. Kelsey Mitchell scored 27 and extended her historic scoring streak. Aaliyah Boston dominated the glass. Sophie Cunningham took the hit and responded calmly, and the Fever walked out of Chicago with a 90-86 victory. The controversy may have started with one dangerous foul, but Indiana's response was what ultimately defined the night. No matter what happens with the league's investigation or Carrington's future discipline, this game showed something important about the Fever. They can handle pressure. They can handle physical play. They can handle controversy. And most importantly, they can still win. So now it's your turn. Do you think a suspension for Carrington is enough, or should the WNBA take stronger action? And what did you think of Sophie Cunningham's response? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe to Basket Law, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next WNBA story. Because when Caitlin Clark and the Fever are involved, there's never a quiet night.